sure why there's so much confusion because honestly, our nose was designed for breathing. There's not supposed to be any other way that we breathe. Our mouth is like our body's secondary, this plan B. Okay. Nose is stopped up. We cannot breathe through the nose. We've still got to breathe to survive. We're going to do it through the mouth. But the nose is where we're able to filter the air. So we're getting out all of those pathogens that might be in there as we're respirating. We're going to get moisturization. It's like a humidifier, our nose. It's going to moisturize that air, warm it, and optimize it. That way we can intake it well through our lungs. And we're going to get that nitric oxide that's produced from our nose. So none of that happens through our mouth, not a bit of that. And so when you're breathing through your mouth, one, you're getting less quality oxygen. Two, it doesn't bind to the receptors and the blood as well. So you're going to have a lot more deficiencies as far as cellular use and purpose as it is taking that oxygen through the body to the different organs and essential places where we need oxygen. And so it's going to cause you issues just throughout your body as a whole.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Sound Bombing. I created this show for people who want to experience a radical, life-changing journey through the sounds of my diverse guests. I hope that each sound you hear on this show will strengthen your faith, encourage your dreams, and challenge you to awaken the greatness within you.
Drop the bomb. Drop the bomb. We're gonna drop the bomb. Drop the bomb. We're gonna drop the bomb. Drop the bomb. We come to drop the bomb. Drop the bomb.
This is a journey into sound. A journey which along the way will bring to you new color, new dimension, new values, and a new experience.
Ladies and gentlemen, the star of the show,
Lamar Darnell Shields.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever the time of the day it is, and wherever you are. I am so excited that you decided to hang out with me. It's been a long journey. Welcome to my show. I'm your host, Dr. Lamar Darnell Shields, the creator of Sound Bombing. And my goal with this show is to introduce you to people with ideas. Do you hear me? With ideas that will help you unlock your full potential. I miss all of you. For those that don't know, I have been super busy speaking, traveling. I have two daughters who are just attending historically Black college. My youngest, who was at Norfolk State University, and my oldest, who went back to Prairie View A&M. We are an HBCU family. No disrespect to anybody else, but that's the choice that we made for our children. So it has been super busy, and it has been super hot, going from Virginia, going then to hot Texas, and then traveling all over, lecturing and doing what I do. But hopefully you had a great summer, and thank you all for coming back and joining me. And listen, if you have not subscribed to the show, what in the ham sandwich are you waiting for? We have some dope guests. Yes, I said dope. I didn't say my guests are on dope. I said, well, they may be, I'm not sure. I'm not judging anybody, but we have some dope guests on this show, which you're going to find out today. So if you have not subscribed, what are you waiting for? We're on every platform. And so I want you to take a moment to subscribe, share with all of your listeners. Stop being stingy. I mean, not your listeners, your friends, or you may have your podcast with your listeners. And so share with everybody, because we want to spread this message of love and hope and perseverance. And so I'm excited about today's guest, because I have been on the road, sleeping in hotels, sleeping in airports, sleeping in Airbnbs, sleeping in other people's rooms and Airbnbs, and don't know who was there. And sometimes I'm so tired and I'm so lethargic. But even though I have a healthy diet and I work out, I still get tired. So if you're tired of restless nights and lethargic days, you are at the right place at the right time with the right person, and you're going to love today's show. Why? Because my next guest is a registered dental hygienist. Yes, when you see the smile, you're going to know what I'm talking about. You know, I love teeth, myofunctional therapist, and a leading voice in sleep and myofunctioning therapy. Don't ask me what that is yet. That's why I brought her on here. She's going to tell you what it is. She found the Myo Spot, a practice aimed at amplifying oral wellness to whole body wellness. Through teletherapy, she helps clients of all ages overcome tongue ties, TMJ disorders, sleep apnea, grinding, not that type of grinding, all right? Get your heads out the clouds. Anxiety and various breathing and orofacial dysfunction. She's passionate about education and self-help. Her latest published book, which delves into how to sleep better, eliminate burnout, execute goals, and her mission is to transform and positively impact as many households, as many podcast hosts as possible through dynamic breath, brain, and body work. Who am I talking about? I want to welcome to Sound Bombing Karese Laguerre, my new friend who's going to help me get my sleep together and my breathing back on track because you know the breath is powerful. Karese, welcome to Sound Bombing. How are you doing? And let my listeners know where you are coming in. Look at it. She's showing her teeth already. Just to let y'all know. Hey,
I
Karese.
smile a lot. I tend to do that. Hello. I'm so happy to be here. I am speaking with you from Southeast Florida. So I'm near West Palm.
So you in the warm environment, but someone told me you got Jersey roots. And then someone also told me you went to a school that I thought about attending because one of my favorite heroes, Paul Robeson, went to the school. Am I correct? Did you attend Rutgers? Did you walk past Rutgers? Do you know somebody at Rutgers? Is that true?
Yes and no. I went to
yes and no. Yes and oh, I need to call my producer. Yes and no. Please explain that.
I went to the University of Medicine and Dentistry in New Jersey, and that got absorbed by Rutgers on my final semester. So graduating, I have a Rutgers degree, but technically, I went to UMDNJ.
Where did the checks go? Where did the checks go? Where did the financial aid come from?
Rutgers.
I love Rutgers because some of my favorite people went there, but my favorite hero, Paul Robeson, the great actor, the great activist, the great athlete. There's a center named after him. If you went to there as an undergrad, I mean, it's a place. If you want to look for all the Black folks at the Paul Robeson Center. So Rutgers has a place in my heart. I named a school in Baltimore, our Saturday school at Johns Hopkins. It was named after Paul Robeson. So you got some Rutgers juice, and you got Jersey roots, and we're neighbors, even though I'm from Chicago. I'm right next door to you, but just like most people, you got the heck up out of there, probably because that cold weather or whatever else, but you are in Florida, and so welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here. I'm excited. I can't wait to share.
Well, you heard my introduction. I have been on the road for a couple of weeks and a couple of months, in and out of hotels, traveling, keeping up my workout, my fitness, but sometimes sleep does get out of I lose it. You know what's so funny, Karese? It's so interesting. You ever hear people say, I need to catch up on some sleep? Fool, you can't catch up on the sleep. It's already gone. There's nothing that you can catch up on, but you can get some sleep. So I'm glad that you're here because folks are going back to school soon. Some of the colleges have already opened up. Some of my teachers already started working K through 12. The seasons are about to change. So I have a lot of questions for you, but talk to me about this word, myofunctional therapy. What the heck is myofunctional therapy? Now, I'm a wordsmith. I love words. And I know myo means muscle, I believe. And, in the Greek word, and mouse and muscle. I don't know what the connection is. I'm not Greek. Didn't pledge, but maybe you can unpack something for me. So talk to me about myofunctioning therapy. What the heck is it?
Yeah, you were halfway there. I mean, myo is muscle, right? And functional is function, right? So muscle functional therapy. But what I do with myofunctional therapy is kind of like personal training, if you want to liken it to that, where I work with all the muscles below the eyes, but above the shoulders. So in the nice orofacial and oropharyngeal area, we're working to strengthen and coordinate those muscles. That way you could breathe better, sleep better, digest better. I mean, there's a wealth of benefits. And so it's a very active therapy.
Now, I have a trainer. Shout out to Chauncey Whitehead, one of the dopest trainers on the planet. He's never worked out my face. He's never done anything with it's actually from my neck to my toes. Talk to me about how do you, as a trainer, as a facilitator, as a part of a therapy, what do you mean when you talk about working out your facial functions? I'm sorry.
So it's so interesting that nobody ever thinks about that. So a lot of people are like, oh, I'm super healthy. I've got all my muscles in function and whatever. But there's over 100 muscles in that complex that I work with that nobody ever thinks about and nobody ever works on. Yet it's essential. We've got our upper respiratory tract in this little area here, right? We eat, we breathe, we have all of our senses up in this area here. Nobody's ever focused on it. So what I do is very similar to what you would do with a personal trainer. We're doing exercises to engage because all muscles are the same. They can only relax and contract, right? So we're doing exercises to engage those muscles, to help muscles that are overdeveloped. So when you have people who do a lot of clenching of their teeth or their faces are very tense, we try to relax those muscles down, right? And we want to work on relaxing. And then when you have muscles that are underdeveloped, so when there are people who have issues where they're overusing mass, or they're compensating, I should say, with muscles that they shouldn't be using, well, then we're going to start to work out those muscles that need to be developed. That way they can be properly coordinated and we can facilitate better chewing, better swallowing, better relaxation, better sleep. There's so many wonderful benefits of myofunctional therapy, and all these muscles are so heavily ignored.
So I heard you say that most trainers sort of neglect the facial piece when it comes to building, maintaining muscle. Why is that so? Why do we not spend time working out our facial muscles?
I think as a whole, we don't understand as a people, right? We don't understand the importance of these muscles. We see everything else and we think that these are things that we can work out. You look at the biceps and you're like, oh, these are good. But nobody's ever looked at cheeks and said, oh my gosh, like your cheeks, they look flaccid. They're not developed at all, right? Nobody's ever done that. But that's something where I would be focused on. I don't think that's something that a lot of other people focus on, and they don't know the importance of the cheeks. They don't know why they have to work the muscles of mastication, the muscles of facial expression. They don't really know what the true purpose of these muscles are. And so it's okay because there's very few people who are heavily focused on that anyway.
Oh, it's great to have your niche. It's something about your niche, focusing on your niche. And I'm looking at your face. Your face looks so healthy. Your smile, your cheek, you know, we always say black don't crack. That's a whole nother conversation. Why focus on myofunction therapy? Did something happen to you? Something happened to a family member of you? Was it something that you read? Was there a mentor at Rutgers said, girl, listen, if you want to really get into another area, you need to go into this particular area. What is your passion? Why are you so passionate about this particular form of therapy?
That is a wonderful question. It all stems really from my children. So I am a mom of 4. And I think when it comes to
somebody, let me stop right. You know somebody mad that you got 4 kids and you still look like you're 14. Somebody right there is like, I'm about to work my face out, right? If I need to work my face out so I don't look like somebody's mama, then I need to pay attention. Somebody's going to pause this right now and pull over and play it back because they said she has 4 children and you are glowing. Talk to me about that.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. So I have, as a mom of 4, I would like to think that a lot of us, when we are talking about our children, we all give the highlight reel. And so somebody says, how's everything? Everybody is good. This one's playing soccer. This one's in football. This one's here, there, and everywhere. But we don't talk about all the things that might be going on in the home that are common, but that are really heavy struggles. So my son, he's 18 now, but back when he was in school from kindergarten all the way straight through the 5th grade, he had attention issues. He had behavioral and impulse control issues. My daughter, so I have 1 boy and 3 girls. My oldest daughter had every sleep issue under the sun. Every night for 10 years, there was something going on, be it bedwetting, night terrors, blood curdling screams in the middle of the night. She'd be sleepwalking. We had you name it, she went through it multiple times every single night for 10 straight years. And then my little 2 had every upper respiratory, infection that they could possibly have, between sore throats and the ear infections and the nose. Too much going on in my household. But if anybody was to ask me at that time, I'd say all is well, because that's what the pediatrician was telling me, that everything was fine, that they grow out of these things, that I shouldn't worry about it too heavily and so forth. But it really took me being in my role at that time as a registered dental hygienist, working for a pediatric dentist, who kind of enlightened me to the importance of all these muscles and what was going on. And would you believe that we were able, through myofunctional therapy, to address a lot of those issues, as varied as they were, for all 4 of my kids: my son, his ADHD, my daughter, her sleep, and my younger 2 with the upper respiratory issues. All of that stemmed from how they were using their muscles. And once I was like mind blown to find that out, it was not a hard step at all for me to want to help other people, because we shouldn't be silently struggling. And these children, when they don't get treated, they turn into unhealthy adults that can't sleep, that have pain, that are just really walking around with a bunch of ailments that they should not have had.
So somebody's listening and they want to know, what are some of the exercises that they can do? Because I know they're thinking about their trainer, thinking about chin-ups, pull-ups, push-ups, crunches, Pilates, all those things. Can you walk my listeners through, who can see, and also those that can't see us, so you want to walk them through, the people that are listening, some of the exercises that you might have used on your children or maybe some of your clients as well?
Yeah, one of the biggest things that we like to focus on with myofunctional therapy is the tongue. So a lot of people try to think of the tongue as just one muscle, or it's a very common misconception that it's like the strongest muscle of the body. It's actually comprised of 16 different muscles. Okay. So those muscles, we work on them and we try to work on them as a whole wherever there's deficiencies, right? So it's a very custom program. But if you wanted to work on the tongue and the tongue itself and its really strongest, most prominent role, it should be sitting at rest up against the roof of the mouth, lightly suction there. So work on improving that suction. Get tongue stuck to the roof of the mouth. What you could do, if you can't see me, what you could do is try to make a clicking sound with your tongue, but you freeze it at the top where it's suctioned to the roof of the mouth or the palate, and hold it there. See how long you can hold it there. Try to work your way to 90 seconds of holding it there. It's a very powerful thing that we typically take for granted, but at rest, our tongue needs to be sitting there. That's the floor of the nose is the roof of the mouth. So when it's sitting up there, it's stimulating nasal breathing. It's stimulating our vagus nerve, which is helping with our autonomic nervous system. It's really strengthening and toning the back of the tongue. It's getting that tongue out of the airway. There's so many great purposes for that one little exercise.
So it's interesting. I'm doing it. People probably like, why is this dude looking like that? I was actually doing it while you were doing it. And now it makes sense. When I saw some of your videos and photos, you were doing something with your tongue. I'm like, what is she doing with her tongue? But what's interesting when you study, so my children have been vegan since their entire lives. We have a homeopathic doctor and we have a traditional pediatrician, and they work together when my children were much younger. But when I listen to my homeopathic doctor, you go into his office, you see the tongue. And in Asian, in Eastern medicine, they're constantly looking at your tongue. In American medicine, they look at it a little bit, but not as much. When you go to the dentist, of course, they pick it up. But there's so many things that you can learn about your body from your tongue, which is very, very interesting. Because when I get my teeth cleaned, then of course the doctor comes in, she pulls my tongue up and moves it around and things like that. And so to hear you say, just put it at the roof of your mouth. Even when I meditate, that's one of the meditation practices, is to hold your tongue, but nobody really explained that to me. How often, using that exercise, how often should someone do that? Is a daily practice, something where you eventually, I call these like brain hikes, where you can sort of where you can sort of teach yourself these certain things. How often should someone do that?
At least 3 times a day, you're trying to work on that and other exercises wherever you might be deficient. However, it is something that you want to establish into your just daily routine. Like I said, at rest, that's where we want the tongue. When my tongue isn't doing anything, when I'm sitting here and I'm not speaking, I'm not eating, my tongue is suctioned up to the roof of the mouth. So for a good portion of the day, you want to be able to sustain that. So at least 2 to 3 times a day, practicing, working on that suction and maintaining it.
And tell me, what does it do? What is it doing for the body or for the facial muscles?
Excellent. Okay. So a lot of development is stemmed around our tongue. Okay. So for those who are going to have struggles with that, because there are going to be people who have struggles with that, they might have narrow dental arches, or they might have a tall, or what we would call professionally, a vaulted palate or roof of the mouth. So their tongue won't be able to connect up there. And the problem is that their tongue originally wasn't up there. So our tongue is really like a scaffold for our maxillary or upper dental arch. And what that's going to do is it's going to help to form a better arch. So it'll give you a little bit more width as you're growing. It'll help you prevent the need for braces, because that arch is going to develop as big and broad as it should develop, right? So developmental, it's essential for. Like I said, there's that neurocognitive aspect of it as well, where you're stimulating the vagus nerve. when we talk about our cranial nerves, at least 3 of them involve the tongue. And so being able to have really great cognitive function, awareness, and to be able to function just overall, because our cranial nerves always fire in order. So straight from 1 up to 12, and 12 is the biggest one for the tongue. It's all going to help with just your alertness, your ability to maintain that autonomic nervous system. That's your fight or flight, rest or digest. You want to be in that rest and digest. Tongue is critical when it comes to digestion. Not many people are aware, but digestion starts in the mouth. So having your tongue where it's supposed to be is going to help you in that way too. Dentally, if you suffer from, a lot of cavities, or you suffer from if you suffer from cavities and periodontal disease, gum disease, if you suffer from gum disease, that's another thing that we have greatly associated with the tongue and the tongue's posture and its ability to sit where it's supposed to sit. So there's a multitude of things that it can really improve.
So how different is respiratory, being a respiratory therapist and a myofunction therapist? Are they very similar? Are they different? Because when I was reading about respiratory therapists, there's also this exercising of muscles and facial features as well.
Yes, there is some overlap. We're definitely both focused on breathing in the upper respiratory tract. However, I would say that with myofunctional, we're going to focus more on the muscles that aren't in that respiratory tract as well. So we'll work on, like I said, when there's people who have too much tension in their face, or whether they're struggling with their swallow, we're going to work on all of those muscles that are doing different functions that aren't necessarily directly related to the respiration. However, it is a crossover. Like we do some similar things. It's just I've got a lot more muscles in my wheelhouse.
So can you look at a person, maybe a person who's a client or somebody walking past you, who you can just read their face, like their face is either tight, because or it's too loose, or what? How do you read a person when you see that you can sort of discover that they may be struggling with sleep, rest, apnea? Are there some signs that you can notice from just looking at someone?
Yes. More often than not, I find myself watching TV or walking down the street or being in an airport and just visually diagnosing everybody. I'm like, you need help, you need help, you need help.
So it's funny, you see them, I listen, because mine is the listening piece of on the plane with this woman was just going off. She was in a freaking exit row, for emergency exit. You're getting mad at the flight attendant who's saying you chose to be here. I just need a verbal yes. I'm trying to get some rest. Lady, can you just say yes and move on? And I told my son, we not going out that exit door because I don't trust her. So while you watch, looking at faces, I'm listening to people are just under so much stress in their lives, and a lot of the stuff is by choice because we choose to react a certain way. So while I'm listening, you're looking at faces and you're seeing those. What are some signs that you're seeing that we all can observe within ourselves?
Yeah, you'll see that in some people, there'll be under their eyes, they'll have a darkness or a deep, like, I'll call it just a darkness. We'll leave it at darkness underneath the eyes. That's a big sign of poor craniofacial development because that's going to indicate to me that they don't have a very broad upper arch because that supports that under the eye floor.
So when you say darkness, are you talking about, I know the dark circles that people have, bags under their eyes, or is that something?
Not necessarily bags, but the dark circles. We call it venous pooling professionally.
Okay.
And so once you see that, then you know that it's definitely, there's something going on within the oral cavity in some way, shape, or form. Most often than not, narrowness. You're going to see in many people the flaccid cheeks or cheeks that are just those chubby, cute cheeks. You ever met somebody you really just want to go pinch their cheeks? Yeah, they need a lot of work on their cheeks. It's not something that you're supposed to find adorable. A lot of tension people carry along the chin, their mentalis muscle. It'll be very bunched and heavily developed. That's an overworked mentalis muscle. Open lips as just a rest posture is always a deficiency. We want a strong lip seal. We want lips closed at rest. We want nasal respiration. Anybody who's mouth breathing, it's not just like an insult on Stranger Things. It's a legitimate deficiency.
Talk to me about breathing through the nostril and the mouth. So, as a person who practices yoga, as a person who's taking breathing courses, I was listening to an interview and you were talking about that we're supposed to breathe through our nostril. Is that correct? So, talk to me
Absolutely.
why there's so much confusion when it comes to how you properly breathe.
Well, I'm not sure why there's so much confusion because honestly, our nose was designed for breathing. There's not supposed to be any other way that we breathe. Our mouth is like our body's secondary, this plan B. Okay. Nose is stopped up. We cannot breathe through the nose. We've still got to breathe to survive. We're going to do it through the mouth. But the nose is where we're able to filter the air. So we're getting out all of those pathogens that might be in there as we're respirating. We're going to get moisturization. It's like a humidifier, our nose. It's going to moisturize that air, warm it, and optimize it. That way we can intake it well through our lungs. And we're going to get that nitric oxide that's produced from our nose. So none of that happens through our mouth, not a bit of that. And so when you're breathing through your mouth, one, you're getting less quality oxygen. Two, it doesn't bind to the receptors in the blood as well. So you're going to have a lot more deficiencies as far as cellular use and purpose as it is taking that oxygen through the body to the different organs and essential places where we need oxygen. And so it's going to cause you issues just without your throughout your body as a whole. But we definitely want to make sure that we're breathing 100% inhale and exhale through our nose because that's what it's designed to do. We don't need air coming through our upper respiratory tract, going through our oral cavity. That's going to dry out your mouth. It's going to decrease the salivary content of positive bacteria because we don't want too much of that negative bacteria taking over. That's where we get a lot of our dental dysfunction and cavities and diseases and so forth.
You are hitting on so many things that I agree with, even when I'm doing my talks. I do a lot of work around equity, diversity, and inclusion. And before I start any session, I used to do it on the show. We would start off with some breaths, some mindful breaths. And what I would show or explain to the listeners, be it in real time, face to face, or virtual, that we aren't properly breathing. And that plays an effect on, there's a connection between mindfulness and being very judgmental. There's a connection between mindfulness or meditation and making better decisions. There's so many connections. And what I'm discovering is that people just don't know how to properly breathe. As a trainer, as someone who works out, like I've worked out with boxers, and believe me, I was trying to figure out why the heck do these guys run so much? But you're in a boxing ring for like 3 minutes now, and I've been in a ring, and I'm like, but imagine just someone, they're hitting you, and you're trying to dodge, but they're learning how to breathe, the proper way of breathing, and so I think that really affects our work. That we get so tired, we get so lethargic, and then add on to the long work days, add on to the issues of racism, as you talk about people of color, that plays a major role in it. Add on to everything that you said, having children, not wanting to be in a job, judging yourself, but taking those mindful breaths and understanding the effect that plays on us is very, very important. Then the other things in the opening, I talked about all these sleeping disorders. You have sleep apnea, insomnia, hypersomnia, circadian rhythm disorders, parasomnia. There's so many somnias that are out there and so many different sleep disorders. What is going on? Why is there so many of these different disorders just popping up all over the place? Were they always there? Are we being more attentive to those things? Talk to me about what you're seeing that's affecting people the most right now when it comes to sleep disorders. And what are some things that my listeners and I can do, again, to help with lack of sleep?
Absolutely. So in 2015, the CDC, and we talk about them a lot because we talk about them with the coronavirus pandemic and so forth. But in 2015, they actually declared a national epidemic of sleep deprivation. So sleep deprivation as a whole is something that we're seeing, and that is globally. The WHO, before the CDC declared it a national, just for America, epidemic, the WHO declared it worldwide as an epidemic. So
let me stop you. For those that thinking that the WHO is a musical group, because there's one, the WHO and the Beatles, the World Health Organization, somebody's like, the band is talking about sleep apnea.
I mean, who knows? Maybe they could be talking about it too.
Believe me, if you are in the band, hip hop, R&B, gospel, believe me, you are not getting rest. But I just wanted to stop to say, when you said the Who, they like, the rock band, the British invasion. No, we're talking about the World Health Organization. Go ahead. Some people slow, especially when you're sleepy, you're really slow. Go ahead.
Yes. So sleep deprivation is the biggest thing that we're seeing as we become more industrialized. We're under more stress. We have more families that have to work and have to work harder in order to keep up with just living costs and the cost of living overall. And so sleep deprivation, under that bigger umbrella of sleep-related breathing disorders, we find many of the causes of sleep deprivation. So whether we have obstructive sleep apnea or upper airway resistance syndrome, snoring as its own parasomnia, grinding or clenching of the teeth, that's bruxism as its own parasomnia, wetting the bed, and so forth. So there's a bunch of things under that bigger umbrella. And so how can we address those? Well, sleep-related breathing disorders are all related to breathing, upper respiratory tract. Like, this is my wheelhouse. I love this. So when we're breathing at night, it's important that we oxygenate appropriately, because what our body is doing is it's trying to just restore itself. You're getting a lot of restoration within your cells, your brain. The only time that it is going to cleanse itself is at night during sleep. So we have our lymphatic system, we have our kidneys, we have a whole bunch of ways that when we are awake, our body is cleaning out itself. But the brain is firing all day long, and the only time it's going to get to clean is during sleep. And so none of these processes are able to happen if the body has to now prioritize breathing over all these other functions that are essential while we're sleeping. So you won't be able to generate or you won't be able to process through your sleep cycles appropriately when you're not respirating properly. So some of the problems that we find: snoring, biggest one, right? And most obvious one. A lot of people think, everybody snores, right? That's fine. Well, let's think about snoring as what it really is. So snoring is the sound of air meeting resistance as it's going through your upper respiratory tract. That doesn't sound healthy, nor does it sound like something that you want, right? Like, we want to breathe and to get all of that air in, and it shouldn't meet resistance. If we were eating and it made a sound every time that it was going through our stomach, we would find a problem with that. We'd be like, oh my goodness, my burger is meeting resistance as it's trying to get to my stomach. Like, this is a problem. It's a really big issue when it comes to sleep. Because as we're getting poorer oxygen, our body is now having to prioritize respiration over getting into REM or stage 3 sleep, where we're getting a lot of that cell rejuvenation, where we're getting the brain to really restore, where we're really finding that the optimal tasks that are going to lead to restorative sleep, as opposed to just restful sleep, because you can be in bed all night and wake up and feel exhausted and you have no idea why. You didn't get restorative sleep. You got restful sleep.
Yes, and I fought going to the gym. Believe me, I tell people the alarm clock doesn't wake me up. Purpose does every morning. But today my purpose was not coming from under those sheets. So I woke up just like you said, slept, but just woke up really, really tired.
Yes. And so it's all in the way that we're breathing. We want to make sure that we're not mouth breathing at night. We want to make sure that our tongue is up and against the roof of the mouth, because our tongue is a very long organ. So I consider it an organ. Everybody considers it a muscle, but it's an organ. And it goes all the way down, if you think about your cervical spine, all the way down to C6 or C7. And so that's a very long way down our throat. So now we get that up and out of the airway, and it gives us just more space to breathe. We do our myofunctional therapy. We get those oropharyngeal muscles a little bit toned, and it keeps it out of the airway. That way you're able to rest and get some actual restorative sleep.
So give me a little more. We want a little more. Somebody is definitely paying attention right now. What are some exercises that one can use to improve? You talked about the tongue again. Are you sleeping on your back? Are you sleeping on your side? Are you sleeping on a certain pillow? What are some of the exercises that we can do like tomorrow?
Back sleeping is probably one of the worst ones that you want to do. You don't want to do that. Or if you have to sleep on your back, then you want to prop yourself up, because gravity is going to be working against you. All of our muscles start to relax once we're in sleep, right? So a relaxed tone muscle is totally different from a relaxed, undeveloped muscle. So a relaxed toned muscle isn't going to collapse as far. But when we're not, like I said, nobody's focused on these muscles, right? So many people are walking around with these muscles that haven't been very well developed, not well trained. So you don't want to back sleep because that's going to just push everything backwards and it's going to make all those muscles relax onto each other. And you're more prone to snoring and having apneas, which is a stop of breathing for 10 seconds or more while you are sleeping. So you don't want to do that. If you are going to do that, if you're like, I have to sleep on my back, great. Prop yourself up, use a wedge pillow, use multiple pillows, make sure that you're not laying flat on your back. Outside of that, side sleeping is very good. And what I would say is that if you're concerned about the throat, gargling is a really great way to help tone up those muscles. So a lot of people can gargle, yes, or they might have issues gargling because they might have a hyperactive gag reflex. But if you can gargle and if you can get yourself to gargle for upwards of a minute, like just holding that mouthwash or whatever you're using to gargle, because you could just gargle with just salt water or just water alone. If you can hold that for up to a minute, it's a really great exercise for those oropharyngeal muscles.
All right, so you are giving us some strategies. You definitely talk about snoring. Not only is it not beneficial to the person that's snoring, but if you have a partner that's snoring, that's a whole nother conversation. So there's been a debate about sleep. I think the CDC or other sleep organizations keep stressing, is it 8 hours of sleep or is it less? Is it more? Some people say, these high functioning people, I won't name some of them. Many of them are celebrities. Many of them are running these corporations. And they always say, I can function on 4 hours or 3 hours of sleep. Is there a best amount? Is there an amount of sleep that we should definitely focus on? Is it based on age? Is it based on gender? Or is it just based on being a human, period?
I like to say that quantity is not the biggest issue. The quality of your sleep is the biggest issue. So studies have shown that, like you said, these very highly successful people, they're billionaires, celebrities, people who have high status in society, typically average about 4 hours of sleep, 4 to 5 hours of sleep. Whereas most people on average can maybe get by, let's say getting by on 6 to 8 hours of sleep. And then there are the people who have, these long-term circadian rhythm disorders or so forth, where they may need 12 to 13 hours to sleep to actually function. So how long your body requires to sleep is a personal situation. What amount of sleep is going to get you restorative sleep? That's what I care about. So the quality of your sleep is the biggest issue for me. You should wake up. If you wake up after 4 hours and you feel well rested, you're ready to go, and you can work those 20 hours of the day and then go back to sleep and feel good the next day, then hooray, good for you. You're a wonderful sleeper. But if you're struggling and if every morning you're waking up and you're just like, oh, I just don't know how long I can do this, or I can't wait till my next vacation so I can catch up on sleep, it's not a good plan. You never really catch up on sleep.
And that sleep deprivation is real. I was listening to a podcast. I love Shankar Vishanta. He has a show called Hidden Brain. And he talked about what lack of sleep does to the body and also to the mind and to the brain. And what he was sharing was this study of individuals who were in war times and what they would do to individuals when they would capture someone who was on the opposing side of the war. So let's just say it's America against China. We capture someone in China, or China against America. And what they would do is they would keep these people up, Karese, late at night with a light on. Didn't beat them, didn't threaten them, but they would keep them awake with a light on, and they studied the effects that it had on their bodies. And I think you brought up a good point, because we're so driven by social media and celebrity status. When I say celebrity status, I'm just not talking about entertainers. I'm talking about people who are running these Fortune 500 companies, and they brag on only get 3 or 4 hours of sleep. It's something about this working hard mentality. Like, you can't sleep. If you sleep, like one of the hip hop lyrics, "Sleep is a cousin of death." Biggie Smalls said that in the 90s, and as if sleep is a bad thing. So I want you to stress why this is so important for us to function as an individual. The importance of sleep. Like, let me tell you, I love sleep, and I love dreaming. I love the dream state. I love that. but also know that I don't get enough. I'm getting much better because I'm going to the gym. But can you just really stress what this does to your body when you don't get rest? Because we don't have time to do an experiment we lock a person in the basement, 11 hours, we keep the light on, or we play what else they did is they played some music that really, really got to them. And they kept a light on, and it really affected their organs, everything about them. Just let my listeners know, even though that you're a single mom, single dad, you're running a corporation, how important sleep is to your day-to-day function.
It's incredibly important. If you consider how, well, hopefully you haven't experienced it too many times, but if you consider how your body functions when you are drunk or when you are just impaired otherwise, it's very similar when you have sleep deprivation. You're working off of a drunken mind. Your reaction time is slow. You're unable to really focus or have awareness. Your balance and stability is off. You are very much drunk when you don't have sleep or a good quality sleep. That's really what I should stress, the quality of the sleep. And so it's pivotal in order to be able to have high performance, because that's what we want. We want high performance. We don't want to just be awake and working and currently hustling and grinding just because we could be up and we can be hustling and grinding. We want it to be productive, and you won't get any of that productivity if you are depriving your brain of what it critically needs in order to be able to give you an adequate response time, in order to be able to be creative and to come up with ideas and to, really do the things that are going to move you forward, whether it's climbing the corporate ladder or you're an entrepreneur and you're trying to implement new projects and things into your business. You can't do any of that if the brain is not adequately functioning.
Well said. So, as a person who's been a vegan, who takes tons of supplements and vitamins, what are your thoughts about this barrage of all of these supplements that are coming to the market? Now, many of these supplements, melatonin has been around for years, but all of a sudden people are taking these gummies to rest and things of that nature. What are your thoughts about those individuals who are taking supplements to get rest?
As a dental hygienist, I don't appreciate gummies. Gummy vitamins are like the worst thing that's ever been invented. Okay. Number one cause of cavities. It's a bunch of sugar and like very little of the actual.
And they're in everything now.
Yes.
Gummy CBD, gummy, like you take a gummy and it has sea moss, and you take a gummy, it has vitamin C. There's an explosion of that.
Yes, it's terrible, and it gets stuck all in the teeth, and nobody's brushing afterwards, and it's a lot. So as a hygienist, I immediately cringe when I hear gummy supplements. But as a myofunctional therapist, and when it comes to sleep, I always advise that you start to work on your body's function. It's not a lack of supplementation, and once you start supplementing, that winds up being something that you have to do in the long term. With the melatonin, we found that there's very few of these actual supplements that have quality amounts of, bioabsorbable melatonin in them. And so what you think you're receiving, you're not actually receiving. There are actual steps you can take that will help your body naturally produce melatonin better. Number one, be consistent, have a consistent routine. I would much rather you have a consistent routine around sleep where you know that you're going to bed at a certain time every night and start to establish naturally your body's circadian rhythm than to take melatonin in hopes that it would help your body to fall asleep. Alternatively, if you're looking to breathe better, that way you can help yourself get to sleep better. Use nasal strips or use a nasal dilator. That helps to open up the nose. Make sure you're using some sort of saline or a rinse to clean out your nose before you use those nasal dilators or the strips. That way you have a clean and available open respiratory passage so you can breathe optimally at night. So I'd much rather you do those natural options than to take some supplements where we're not really sure what's in them and we're not sure if we're going to be able to bioabsorb what it is that we should be getting out of them.
Yeah, you on the same page as my trainer. He has been in the fitness for years, and he always talks about, he has nothing against this whole supplement community. He eats well, he works out, but he wants people to focus on their body and understanding their body. I mean, the creator, God, whoever people believe in, gave us a great tool and has given us all of these these signs when things are not working right. And so you said it, we don't know what's really going in there. I remember going to California and this whole CBD explosion. In Cali, they were so far ahead of the game. So I was in a health food store and I saw the CBD out in the counter where you could just grab it. Then I noticed behind the counter, there was some CBD that was freaking locked up. There was a pistol. It was in a case. There was a security guard next to it. Some strange person over there that wouldn't give me eye contact. And I asked myself, so why is this CBD locked up and that? And so he talked about the potency of the one behind it. So he says people are getting away with this 0.0000.1% of CBD, and people think it's almost like a placebo. So to hear you talk about, to say, there's nothing really wrong with supplements, but as a dental hygienist, we don't like the gummies. Do the work on your body. That's the challenge that most of us have. If we could say, Alexa, could you work out for me for 3 hours? We would definitely do it.
Yeah.
I love, look at you, you started shouting. I love the camaraderie of being in a community of health and wellness, people talking. I love the driving and coming back. And I also love what it does to my body. So me taking a pill, you don't really get those same effects. So I appreciate you saying that. So as we begin to wrap up, you are very passionate about this and you really know your stuff. And I really appreciate this because this is something that everybody can benefit from. We are special people, but we're not so special that we get more than 24 hours a day. We have to use it wisely. And you as a woman, as an entrepreneur, writing, lecturing, working, you are a great example of that. And then looking at you, because again, when you go to the salon, you look at your stylist hair, right? Or if you go to a makeup artist, if they look like they just jacked up, like, I don't care how many views you got on social media, I don't think I'm going to come your way. What are your final thoughts from our listeners as we begin to go into a new season? Fall is coming, and so our body is shifting, and then we're going into winter. What are your final thoughts for those that are out there in the sound bombing community listening? And when I say, they're just not for my community. They're also for me. I create this show. I'll tell you, I'm very selfish when it comes to the show. I really bring these people on like you to really talk to me. The other people, I'm just giving them permission to listen. So whatever you're sharing, I am taking in. Because if you haven't noticed, everything that you said, I'm doing the exercises. If you can see I know when I go back in the studio and look at this, my tongue up here, I'm doing everything that you're saying, I'm actually doing it. And you're right. Once you put it in your mind, it stays there. You're teaching your body how to react. So give us some of your final thoughts as we go into this new season.
Yes. Biggest thing I would definitely have to say is be mindful. Just be mindful and aware. If you have a conscious breathing practice, or you just meditate, or you do yoga, or you do something where you're consciously breathing, I want you to be aware of how that breath is coming in, how you are actually holding your body's posture while you are breathing. Is there tension in your face? Are you hearing a sound as you're breathing? All of these are red flags and signs that maybe there's something that needs to be worked on and there's something that could be better. And so just be very, very mindful and then start to advocate for yourself, because most of the traditional medical community, like you mentioned earlier, is not actually looking at your tongue. They're not actually looking at your face or your facial muscles. So even though you might bring that up as an issue, you're not always going to get the response that you would like, where somebody may very well dismiss you. Like I said with my children, they said all that, don't worry about that. It's common. That happens all the time. They'll grow out of it. You don't want to have these issues that just perpetuate and compound year after year. So just be mindful of where you are now and advocate for yourself if you want to get somewhere better.
Now, Karese, how can my listeners get in contact with you if they want to find out what you're doing, if they want to become a client, if they want you to actually walk them through some facial exercises one-on-one? How can they reach out to you?
They could set an appointment on my website, www.themyospot.com. At that website, we have free consultations. I'm happy to talk to you about what you might be going through, happy to help and walk you through and let you know if you need myofunctional therapy, if it is a thing for you. And if you just want to follow me, you want to watch me make like lots of silly videos, those reels or stories, you can follow me on TikTok or Instagram or Facebook. All of them is at the Myo Spot.
And she has some funny videos, exercise. Show us one of those facial exercises that you can that we
Oh
can?
my gosh. Well, one of the best ones is really just puffing up your whole face with air. That takes a lot of pressure off that TMJ joint. So I like to call it a monkey mouth. So much fun.
So now it makes sense when I was looking at those videos. The context, I had to connect with the content. So I know you read a lot of books about breathing and tongue exercise and facial exercise, but share with my audience your book. Talk to us about your book.
So my book, Accomplished: How to Sleep Better, Eliminate Burnout, and Execute Goals, is a fantastic book that kind of walks you through what exactly is the importance of breathing and sleep, and then how you can optimize your daily routine in order to get the best quality of sleep that you can. So it's a little 4-step process, and I lay it all out in the book. And the book is not like overly filled with a bunch of filler. It really gets right to the point. Like, what do you need to do and how can you implement that as soon as today?
So what was the inspiration behind the book? And walk me through your writing process. I'm a writer and I'm always interested to find out people's writing or creativity process. So talk to me about the writing process and what was the inspiration?
So my inspiration is just the fact that I realized I am one person, right? So I cannot spread the word by just talking to people. I had to put down the process. I had to make it as real as possible for as many people and easily accessible. So that really inspired me. I said, how can I get this message out? And this is how I was going to do it. I gave myself a 30-day deadline to write the book. I actually did write it within 30 days. My process just consisted of writing. And this is my best advice that I give everybody. If you start to write and you want to write in order, or you're like, I have to get this thought out before that thought, it's going to take you forever. Write and write and write, and you can move whatever little pieces need to be moved to suit your outline appropriately. But when you feel inspired, write as much and as freely as possible and organize it later.
So what makes your book very different from other books in the same genre?
My book is different because I'm talking about your tongue and breathing. I'm not trying to give you any sort of fluff when it comes to these sleep tips. A lot of people would give you that fluff of like, get rid of your phone or make sure you're not working out or don't eat before. I'm telling you, this is what you got to do. You got to make sure you're breathing appropriately. You're breathing appropriately. All that other stuff will kind of work its way into play.
And how can we get a copy of your book?
Amazon. It's available on Amazon.com.
Shout out to Amazon. How is the book doing? And what are some of the readers saying about the book?
Readers are enjoying the practicality. So the fact that the steps that I give you in order to get better sleep are very simple, easy to implement, and it's something that is relatable. So the practicality has been the best feedback.
So you cannot leave right now because I'm still awake. And the second part of the show is called the Super Bomb Questions. The difference from the first part is that I ask you a variety of questions that had a lot to do with what you do. This is now about you as an individual. The difference between the Super Bomb questions, I'm going to ask them to you, and I need you to respond to them as quickly as possible. Karese, are you ready?
I hope so.
So here we go. Get your face ready and let's go. What's your favorite word?
Shenanigans.
What's your favorite quote or a song to a lyric or a scripture?
Favorite quote is, I should be seeking, not searching.
What's your superpower?
Uh, Breathing.
What moves you to tears of joy?
Oh, my children's laughter. Nothing's
What
better.
Nothing's better. What moves you to tears of sorrow?
Oh, injustice.
What do you wish you had more time to do?
Like, hang out with my family.
What is the book or books you've given most as a gift and why?
Most as a gift has really been Tongue Tied by Dr. Richard Baxter. But is that like my favorite book? No, that's just the one that I have given out the most. A lot of people need help.
What's your morning routine?
Every morning I wake up, I have a journal that I have to do, and then nasal hygiene. 100% clean out my nose.
What do you know for sure?
I know for sure that if I am not breathing properly, I am not going to be a well-functioning person.
Final question, Karese. If you were in the Ms. America talent competition, what would your talent be?
Writing?
I thought you were going to say breathing, but you said
I was trying not to say something weird about breathing.
well, listen, it has been an honor hanging out with you. I am going to take these steps to get my breathing on point, to get my sleep and my rest on point, because I have to be here for my children and for my family and for the audience, who is the dopest audience on the planet, my sound bombing community. Thank you again for hanging out with me today.
Thank you for having me.